Great. So welcome everybody. My name's Jason Nuttall. I live in Brighton, but I work for Crowdfunder, which is actually based in Newquay in Cornwall, along the coast. So I've been helping Fringe for God, I don't know how many years now. It must be about 6 of the 7 years that I've worked at Crowdfunder. I've done workshops or in-person workshops or online workshops as well. So it's good to be back. Yeah, do use the chat if anything comes up as we go through, and then there's time at the end for questions. Doesn't look like anyone started setting up a crowdfunding campaign yet. So we'll talk a little bit about getting you to that point. So a little bit about Crowdfunder. Um, we exist to tackle society's challenges by making ideas happen. That's what we're all about. We work with everybody from individuals to major charities, small businesses, artists, etc., to help them raise the money to make their ideas come to life. We are a little bit different to other crowdfunding platforms in that we are a rewards-based crowdfunding platform. So that means when you set up your crowdfunding campaign, get you to think about what you could give back to the people who are giving to you. And there's a number of reasons for doing that, and we can look at that in more detail as we go through this evening. But generally, it does get people giving more, but it also provides an opportunity to engage with donors in a way that just receiving a donation doesn't give you that opportunity. And particularly for people working in the arts and creative industries, obviously rewards are a really great way to whether it's sell your products or give an opportunity for people to participate, tickets, etc. An example of how that would work, this is a project we worked with earlier this year, who raised money to make their new album, to pay for the studio time and pressing of their new album. They offered a wide range of rewards, from anything from £8, where you could get a digital download of the new album when it launched, through to some of those bigger rewards. You can see they're £900. The band would come and play a private gig at your house, and other ones being for £150, they would write you a tune, which you'd get a copy of the manuscript and a digital copy of it as well as the recording. So loads of ideas when it comes to thinking about rewards. And as I say, we'll look at that in more detail later on in the session. Oh, what's going on? There we go. On Crowdfunder, a couple of quick questions that come up. So I covered these off early on. You can either raise money through what we call all or nothing, where is what it says. If you set a target, if you don't hit your target, you don't get anything. It goes back to the people who donated. Or flexible funding, which means you keep anything that you raise. Now, I know you're all going to say, well, why on earth would we do all or nothing and risk not getting any money? Well, our research shows that projects that have an all or nothing target raise more money, and they are more likely to reach their funding target anyway. Setting yourself a target and really aiming for that target will make you work a bit harder, but it also crucially makes the crowd work a bit harder, because the people who've supported you already won't want to see your project fail. So actually, by having a flexible funding target, you're probably going to miss out on people donating, because there won't be that urgency, particularly towards the end of the crowdfunding campaign. So we always recommend using all or nothing, particularly if you need to raise £3,000 to put on your show at Fringe. Well, that should be your target, and go out there and raise it. We do charge some fees. Generally, if you're a charity, social enterprise, or not-for-profit, platform fee is 0%. We charge 5% plus VAT to businesses, private businesses. And there's card fees. So everyone pays card fees. They're charged by our card for providers, and you can't avoid those. Another question that comes up: with how long does it take to get my money? Well, after your project's reached its deadline, then usually it is paid within 7 working days, and that's usually the longest time it will take. Usually it's in your bank account within 2 or 3 working days of the project closing successfully. So that's just some bits to get out of the way. Through the rest of the session, we're going to look at things like what makes a good crowdfunding campaign, what are the benefits of crowdfunding, and then think about 3 different aspects to firstly planning your campaign, creating it on the crowdfunder platform, and then actually running it. So what happens once you go live? So what makes a good crowdfunding campaign? 3 key things for a good crowdfunding campaign. A team to help you run the campaign. It doesn't need to be a big team, but there are a few different roles that you might want to think about, or hats that if it's just you might have to wear different hats at different times. You need a network. So you can't crowdfund without a network. Crowdfunding is getting people, lots of people to give you a bit of money. You need to know, have some connection to those people. So where is your network, and how big is it, are really important to think about. It doesn't have to be just social media following. That's crucial. It's about knowing where your audience is, where your potential supporters are, and how you're going to reach them. And then lastly, a story. So through your crowdfunding campaign, you're going to be telling people a story about you, about your work, about why it's important, and things like that. So having a really nice story is really crucial as well. So those are the 3 key elements that run through this session tonight that we're going to think about. In terms of the benefits of crowdfunding, it's worth just touching on those, because you might want to think about these as you're planning your campaign. So there's a number of things you can get out of crowdfunding rather than just the cash. I always say to people, if you're going into crowdfunding just for the cash, you're kind of missing half the point, or a lot of the point of crowdfunding. So firstly, validation. If you've got a great idea, then crowdfunding is a great way to go out and test that with the public. Do the public think it's a great idea, and will they support it with their real, with cash? Testing your ideas on real people with real money can be really great in boosting your confidence. Means in some cases, though, those ideas fail, but you fail quickly. Generally in crowdfunding tends to work. Generally you'll get going quite quickly, and you'll reach your target. Projects that don't get off the ground quickly are generally the ones that fail, and that's partly because that's what our support will advise you to do. If you're doing what the support says and not getting that positive feedback in terms of money coming and being pledged on the project, then there's something wrong with it, and that's what you need to learn from. Running a crowdfunding campaign is basically running a marketing campaign. So you're going to be raising awareness about what you're doing. And it's a great way to get noticed by a wider audience. We know from research we do on some of our projects that 60% of people had never given money to those organizations before. And about 30% of the people who give had no prior connection to that organization as well. So think about running your crowdfunding campaign as if you're doing it as a marketing exercise. You're going to build your network, grow your supporters through the process. It's also a great way to identify those people within your network who are your strongest advocates. So who are the ones who are going to help you share, spread the word about what you're doing, and get involved in a more meaningful way. Like I say, and through your crowdfunding campaign, you'll be able to identify who those are. It's also a good chance to learn new skills. We know when people run a crowdfunding campaign, they learn skills in digital media, social media, marketing, etc. So it's a great way to try something new, using the support that we've got available at Crowdfunder. And potentially also it's an opportunity to get extra funding. We do have match funding on our platform from a number of different partners, not so much in the creative space at the moment. We've worked a number of times with Creative Scotland, and a little bit with Arts Council England, but nothing currently in the creative space. But it's worth having a look, particularly if your organisation's a charity or a social enterprise. there's a number of funds available. But we do know that when you're crowdfunding, people report to us afterwards that they have built new connections, identified new supporters, found new funders through the crowdfunding process. Again, it comes back to that point that you're marketing what you're doing. People are going to see it, but also potentially funders and other people who might be able to support your work. So definitely worth thinking about all those different ways you can use your crowdfunding campaign to bring benefits wider than just the cash that you receive. As I said, we're going to look now at getting a bit more into the nitty-gritty of how you set up your crowdfunding campaign. We have lots of support available around these three themes. We group all our support into these three key areas: planning your project, creating your project, and running it. We've also got a Learn platform. There's an online course you can work through, plus loads of other resources on Crowdfunded to help you set up your campaign. I would advise, if you've not been on Crowdfunder and started that process, do it now. Start anyway. You don't have to make it live. You can put it, work on it over time. And our research shows that people who spend more time on their campaign generally are more successful anyway. So definitely worth getting on there and starting to set it up. So planning your project. We mentioned earlier you're going to need a team of people. Doesn't need to be a huge team, but the things you need to think about are who's actually going to lead the process. Need someone to coordinate it. Someone who's good at networking, and I'd always advise to produce a network map. Really valuable process. So an example of that on the next page. Cool. So someone to help work with that network map, and through the network map identify others who might be able to support the process. You're going to need a nice engaging looking page with preferably a short video as well. Videos are quite powerful, so that might be something you need a bit of support with. And then marketing. So if you can get someone who's got experience of marketing to work with and support you, develop a marketing plan for both the warm-up period, the period while you're crowdfunding, and afterwards, that could be really valuable as well. But you can do all this yourself if your project's, all about, if you're an individual artist, not looking to raise a huge amount of money for your show, then it's quite manageable to do all this on your own. We have as well. This is an example of a network map. It's really thinking about who are all your potential supporters, and how might you reach them, and where are they, those kinds of things. So you might want to think initially about family and friends, who's going to support you, how are you going to engage them, or the rewards you might offer that would get them giving and interest them. And then think about other local people more broadly. How might you engage them, and what routes have you got to reach those people? Thinking about things like Facebook, if that's something that you use. It could be other social media. Facebook generally is quite good for giving, because of the demographic that uses Facebook. It's a bit of an older demographic that has disposable income, but increasingly we're seeing people using Instagram really effectively to raise money. Not so much Twitter, but to a certain extent. But again, it comes back to, where is your audience? So start with a clean sheet when it comes to doing your network map, and think about all the different ways, all the different people that might support your organization, and how are you going to reach them. And this is a useful thing to do to inform any kind of fundraising you might be doing, whether it's through crowdfunding or other means as well. Is basically saying, who do we know and how do we reach them? So it's a useful thing to do if you're part of an organization, with people, everyone in the organization. If it's a charity, to include the trustees and people in that as well. The other thing to start thinking about early is what's your story? And when it comes to crowdfunding, telling your story really means explaining who you are, what it is you're doing, what you want to achieve, why is it important? Not just why is it important to you, but why is it going to be important to the people you're asking to support you? And that's going to vary based on what your project is. But why should people care about what you're doing and want to give you money to make it happen? And lastly, it's always good practice to explain to people how exactly you'll be spending your money. It helps build trust if you can show a clear breakdown of what you're raising the money for and where you're going to spend people's money as well. It also means you can report back on that to them. Really crucial that after you've crowdfunded and done your show or whatever it is that you're raising money for, that you go back and thank them and share what happened and what you did. So if we were doing a longer session, we'd do an activity at the moment to think about those three things. As I say, this is just useful pointers. You might want to start working on this before you get to the point of coming on to Crowdfunder, or just map it out in your head. Can you answer all these points? In particularly why it's important, because that's going to engage people in giving to your campaign. So once you've got those things, you can probably start creating your crowdfunding project on the platform. It's really easy to do. You click Start Crowdfunding, and it's very much a step-by-step process. Once you're set on the system, you'll see we use a kind of there's 8 pages that you need to complete, but every step of the way, at every section where you're asked to complete a section or fill something in, there will be a clear description as to what it is we're asking you to put in there, what content should be in there, some tips, advice. There's links to examples. Every page has a little video that tells you what information you're going to need to share, and links through to support articles where you can get more help as well. So like I say, you can start this anytime and you can keep editing it and revisiting it before you actually schedule and go live with your crowdfunding campaign. What you're working towards is a really nice, well laid out page, one that's engaging, preferably with a video at the top. This one's just got an image, but images are really powerful, particularly images of people. People give to people, so really crucial that you have some really good images that you can add on the page. You want to make sure you've got your social media links on there so people can check you out a bit, and also follow you on social media if they're not already. And then in terms of the page content, having these headings, you can see here headings, not too big paragraphs of text, bullet points, all go to make the page more readable. You don't want to confront people with big blocks of text. So the more engaging you can make your page and easy to read, the more likely people are to support you. And you can see on Crowdfunder the rewards appear along the side of the project there as well. And you'll be asked to add rewards. You can add rewards as you go as well, and keep adding them throughout your campaign. As I say, it's nice to have a little video that would appear where that image is on the top left. It only needs to be a couple of minutes. It doesn't need to be a blockbuster. A minute or 2 minutes is enough. You can film really good videos on iPhones and other smartphones these days. The image quality is great. What I would say, though, is sound is often the issue. So you might want to think about using a microphone linked to your smartphone, or make sure there's no wind, particularly if you're filming outside as well, because the sound quality really does impact. Write a script, but don't necessarily read from it. Just know what it is you want to say, or know what you want other people to say, but try to make it natural. And the other thing would be linked to the sound issue. I need to add it on here as a point, is to make sure either the platform does it or that you add captions to the video. Often people are looking at, they'll be reading about your campaign while they're sat on a bus or doing something else. They might not have headphones on them, but they'll play a video, and if it's got captions, people keep watching it because they can still read what you're saying if it's in a public place and they've not got headphones as well. So have we got an example? Yeah, we have. Let's see if this works. Someone might need to give me a heads up, a thumbs up as to whether the sound's working or not. Just turn mine down.
Yeah, that's working.
We're fundraising because everything about the event is completely free, and it allows people from all around Glasgow to come in for free. We pay for travel, we pay for all the instruments and all the staff and everything, so they don't have to spend any money whatsoever, and that allows people to come that would otherwise not have the chance to play music or get to do anything like this. So we want to keep that free. I've loved being in the band because it has given me so many opportunities. Before I came here, I never played any music before. Now a few years on, I've had so many amazing opportunities around the country, playing so many different instruments and meeting different musicians, playing different types of music, going to different workshops, and outside of that, it's just developed so many skills for me. The confidence I have now in terms of just life in general has increased so much since when I first started.
Musically, I'm able to play instruments that I would never have known about before, many people that I would never have known before. It's really crucial in opening up avenues for people and connecting people. It brings in a lot of people from all over Glasgow who I wouldn't have usually met. Also, it gives people an opportunity to learn something they've maybe never even heard of before. Not many people play.
It's annoying. Never seems to work very well, video on presentations. Anyway, it's you can look at that in your own time, but we've got lots of great examples of other videos as well. What I would say as well, make sure you make the ask at the end of the video and include a link as well. And I would always suggest if you're thinking of crowdfunding, just look on Crowdfunder or other crowdfunding platforms and find projects that look like what you're doing. Go on to Crowdfunder and click Explore. You can search for projects. If you put in Fringe, you'll find loads of them for Brighton and for Edinburgh. And see how they did it. Watch their videos. Look at what rewards they offered. Read their pages as well. We'll have a quick look at rewards now. How can rewards help to motivate a crowd? Well, rewards help you to incentivize your supporters by giving them something in return. So average donations on a project with rewards is £50. If you compare that to projects without, it's about £20. So rewards do give you an opportunity to raise more money from people, but also to give something back to people, which could be the products, the services, the tickets that you want to sell anyway. So things to think about when rewards is make sure you've got a range of different price points. You don't need loads of rewards, but a few rewards are helpful. Different ones at different price points. They don't have to be things that necessarily you are going to offer. The rewards could be or produce. They could be provided by local businesses or others, people who support you, who donate things to you, which you can then turn into rewards. So it might be you've got fellow artists who might give you some prints, or someone who runs a pub who could offer you some meal vouchers, whatever it might be. They all just go to help to get people giving who might not normally give to your project, but also would maybe give more than they normally do as well. We've got loads of great ideas on the platform. There's we got an article with 55 rewards ideas, so you shouldn't be short of ideas when it comes to rewards. This one was a theatre project. £25 just got you a thank you. £150 got you an exclusive night of free drinks and a buffet with local actors and musicians, etc. as well. So something that's a bit special is nice to offer, particularly when it comes to rewards. The way to think about rewards and get yourself started, perhaps think about rewards at 3 different values you might be able to offer. So what reward could you offer for £10? What could you offer for £50? And what could you offer for £500? Often those larger rewards, people tend to think about how it might engage a corporate sponsor or a company looking to do something different, a team away day or something like that as well. So yeah, rewards really powerful. Do make best use of them. Last section then, when it comes to actually running your project, so you've created your page, you've got your rewards set up, you've gone live or you're about to go live. So things to think about: have a crowdfunding diary, a calendar. We always recommend crowdfunding for 4 weeks. It's a nice finite time. Any longer and you'll get bored of it, to be honest, and your crowd will get bored of it, of hearing you banging on about it. So try and set a target and raise that money over a 4-week period. You then want to think about how you implement your marketing campaign. So going back to your network map, thinking about those different groups of supporters. Initially, you want to start with the people closest to you. So that's going to be the team who are involved, friends and family, perhaps some existing supporters as well. What you want to do is to engage people earlier on and get them to support you before you actually make the campaign public. So people often make the mistake of putting all the effort into getting their page ready and then just bung it on social media and wonder why no one's pledging. Well, it's a bit like the empty restaurant syndrome. If you see an empty restaurant, you'll just walk past and you'll look for the one that's busy and got a bit of a buzz about it. Well, crowdfunding's the same. If you see a crowdfunding page that's got 1 supporter and £5 raised, you're much less likely to spend any time on it compared to one that when you go on the page, it's raised 30% and it's got 50 supporters already. So tell people that you're going to be crowdfunding, get them warmed up, maybe have some special rewards lined up, get people pledging early, so that when someone a bit far further removed from your network sees your campaign, it's got a good amount raised and a good number of supporters as well. And then you just need to work through your marketing campaign, rolling it out, kind of pushing your network further and further. Things like local press or media coverage tend to work better a bit later on in the campaign when it's got a good level of support already. Again, rather than doing a press release on launch day when nothing's been raised, it's best to hold that back and do it till a bit later. Once you're live, you'll get access to your dashboard that will tell you some really useful stuff on Crowdfunder. So a couple of key things will be showing you your pledges by day and also your visitors to the page by day. So hopefully what you want to see here is a nice spike in the number of pledges and a nice spike in the number of visitors to the page. If you're seeing spikes in visitors and that's not matched by a spike in giving, then whatever message you sent that day or the media you use probably isn't more effective. So what you want to do is look for where you've got spikes in visitors and corresponding spikes in pledges. And the bigger the spike in pledges obviously means that messaging or that network that you tapped into at that point is really useful for you, and you can do more of that. Campaigns do tend to follow this kind of almost U-shaped curve. A lot of the money coming in earlier on in the first week, and then a lot of the money coming in the last week as well. As I mentioned, we've got lots of help and support for you throughout on our platform. We have online guides and courses. I don't think we're doing accelerators currently, but we do have a weekly drop-in session. So if you go onto the events section on Crowdfunder, you can sign up to join our monthly webinars and also our weekly drop-ins, where one of our coaches will be able to offer you help and advice as well. And there's, I say, lots of, if you go into Knowledge Hub on Crowdfunder, you'll get access to lots of different resources to help you. The best research to do is look at similar campaigns to Crowdfunder. Have a look at a dozen or so different crowdfunding campaigns, look at what worked for them. You can look on their social media as well to see how they were promoting their campaigns, and really follow that template. There is our Crowdfunder Learn platform. You can work through that online in your own time as well, or you can just dip into it for the different modules. So you might want to look a bit more particularly at how you make a video, or the team that you want to build, those kinds of things. You can either just work through it or just dip in to the modules that you might find of interest. And I think that is the end of the presentation. So we can go on to questions.
So if people either wanted to send any questions in the chat or just unmute or anything, completely up to you what you'd prefer. Oh, we got one from Tom in the chat just asking if all the support that you mentioned, is it for free?
Yeah, so our regular webinars, the drop-in sessions are all free. The online course is free as well. And yeah, our support team will always answer any questions that you've got as well. So yeah, that's all provided for free. We do actually, one thing I should share in the hub is have in partnership with Creative Scotland, we've got a hub for creative projects. So this is probably a good starting point for getting those ideas. Put that in the chat just now. Have a look at this. Loads of really great ideas and case studies on that page, and links through to some of the resources there as well. How many times can you apply for crowdfunding? You don't need to apply for crowdfunding. The platform's open to anybody. So you can set up a campaign and go live whenever you want. We just do some verification checks, that's all, before projects go live. In terms of how frequently you can crowdfund, we work with organizations who crowdfund at least annually. It's a part of their annual fundraising cycle. Same Sky in Brighton is a good example. They crowdfund every year as part of the burning of the clocks. And yeah, a number of organizations have adopted that approach now to crowdfunding, just as part of their regular fundraising cycle, and using different methods of crowdfunding as well. You can run a prize draw on Crowdfunder as a different approach as well. So we're seeing organizations mixing that up now. They'll run a rewards-based crowdfunding campaign at one time in the year, and then they might run a prize draw at another time of year as well.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, go on, Matthew.
Oh, brilliant, thank you. Maybe a silly question, but obviously if you go for all or nothing and then you don't raise the money, presumably that the people then are not charged and the project just doesn't happen. What's the mechanism?
Yeah, so what happens is when someone gives money to your crowdfunding campaign, our payment provider, Stripe, take the payment at the time, but they then hold it until your project completes successfully. So if it completes successfully, they pay the money out to you. and subtracting the transaction fees that come to crowdfunder. If it's not successful and the money goes back, they just automatically refund all the money back to people's cards.
It just gets refunded.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
So Natasha's asked if you want to do Prague and Edinburgh, should you factor in both? Might depend if it's the same show and you're going to be asking the same audience, or whether you want to have got different audiences for each festival. Maybe timing as well. I don't know when the Prague festival is, but you know, if one's in January and the other's Edinburgh's August, isn't it? You know, if they're 6 months apart, then perhaps that's fine to do as two separate campaigns. Equally, it could just work to say, you know, I want to take this show on the road, help me do that, and I'll be going to Edinburgh and Prague festivals.
So you can do it either way, basically. There's not a limit between the, you know, how many times in a year you could apply for funding.
No, because you're not applying for funding.
Yeah, sorry, raising money. Yeah,
you are. I guess you're applying, but to people, not to a funder who's got rules that you can only apply once in a year.
Okay, thank you.
Tom's asked what are the things that crowdfunder offer that other giving platforms don't. We're a rewards-based platform. That's one. You might say so is Kickstarter. But we're also UK based as well, which is quite nice. Kickstarter is US based, and actually Kickstarter tends to work well more for producty type stuff. I think crowdfund is a better place if you're doing something that's more community focused, and creative arts, theatre, etc. projects do tend to crowdfund quite well on Crowdfunder. I think we, as a platform, we offer a lot more support than you would get through, say, Kickstarter, or other platforms. But yeah, and the rewards are really key as well.
I do have a voice. I'm just being lazy. It looks fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's okay. Thank you.
Do you have any standout Fringe crowdfunders that you've seen, Jason?
Oh God, Pete! Whenever people ask me about projects, I see so many. It's quite hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like us and events. We see a lot.
Yeah. We had a partnership with Edinburgh Fringe. They're actually, it's probably worth looking at their Fringe Makers platform, which they ran through us. I'm not sure if they're doing it this year. But yeah, I mean, I tend to remember things like some of the rewards that people offer that are quite fun.
What's your favourite reward then?
I don't know. It's interesting. So we were the project earlier this year. He was raising money to cut his first album, but also had got into baking bread through lockdown. So if you pledged, I can't remember what it was, 20 quid, he got on his bike and he'd hand deliver you a loaf of bread that he'd cooked. And what he did was, on social media, he filmed it while he was doing it. It's like, right, I'm off to deliver this loaf of bread that someone's pledged on. It was really brilliant. So quirky things like that really, really stand out. Opportunity to get yourself written in as a character in the Fringe show, or participate in the show, I think are really great. You know, not just, or name a character in a show, give someone an opportunity to shape it, that kind of thing. I kind of like those ideas as well.
Yeah, there's some great examples. wonder if there's anyone else here who's baked bread and wants to deliver it at the Fringe show to people who've crowdfunded.
But yeah, I thought that was a really great idea. And he created more content for him as well, which I thought was really clever thinking. Because what you want to do is keep your campaign feeling dynamic and active. So doing that in that way allows you to produce new content, to talk about the project, and maybe reach different people as well. So I'll share in the chat. I just found a link to the Edinburgh Fringe platform. So there's really, loads of really great examples there. Worth looking at, ones that raise their money, hit their target, ones that didn't hit their target as well. Get a bit of a sense for what really funded well, the kind of targets that were achievable, that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, that's good. I was going to say, I mean, on that note, do you have, I assume you will, but on the website, any sort of assistance with telling people what's a good sort of target to set or anything like that?
Yeah, there's a bit more guidance around that on the platform. And also, if you look at the network mapping section, I mean, one of the ideas of network mapping, if you want to extend that further, is to think about the different groups of people, how much they're likely to give as individuals, how many you might reach, and you can start to do the maths then to really say, well, I need to raise that much. I think from individuals, I might get this much, from friends or family, through Facebook, I think this much. I'm going to try and engage a couple of businesses and get them to give so much. So what you want to do is kind of have some maths behind your target that you've worked through that links to your marketing plan as well. So you just feel, once you go live, you should feel, not that you know where all the money's going to come from, but it feels achievable because you've identified the different sources and worked it through.
Yeah, that's really useful. Does anyone else have any other questions for Jason? No.
No, okay. We can get 10 minutes back then.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for coming along. As I said, sorry, Matthew, have you got a question? Oh no, just waving. That's all right.
Just saying thank you. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Brilliant. Okay, I will end the recording now.